you guys, today I want to show you how to set up your bird's mouth router bit. So I know a lot of you guys purchased these router bits and they're a little bit tricky to set up, but once you learn, it's really not hard at all. So that's what I want to show you today, how to set up this router bit to do bird's mouth joinery. Now, before we go to the router table, I just wanted to show you a couple of routers bits that I have for bird's mouth joinery, and we'll talk about the difference and a few things that you need to understand before you actually try to set it up. I'll be setting up my router table to do a six-sided shape today, and I picked up a few other router bits that I have in my shop. All these four router bits, they all do six shape, even though they look quite different. So, for example, if you take this one is from Infinity, this one is from Whitetail, which I love this one. This one, it's a Yanako. This one is from, I believe this one is from Lee something, I can't remember. But here is where these things are different. They all do have the same angle. They will all do the same six-sided or 12-sided shape. I'm sorry for the background noise, but I have construction people building some stuff. And they all have the same angle, but the difference is, you see the second blade, the one on the bottom, it is very, very short on this one, and this one have a lot longer blade. And that will come in handy when you're doing your 12-sided shape. When you do your six-sided shape, you'll be using the top blade for the width of your stock. So for example, if this is going to be my width of my stock, it's about a ½ an inch. I can easily use it for six-sided because it's, you know, smaller than the diameter of this blade on the top. But for example, if I want to use this piece of material for 12-sided, this router bit is not going to work to make a 12-sided with this material because my material, it's wider than that second blade that is on the bottom. And when you do 12-sided, then you use the secondary blade as your main blade. And it has to be, the blade has to be longer than your stock material. You'll understand that in a second. So for example, if I want to make a 3/4 inch 12-sided shape, this will not work because this bottom blade is very short. But I can use the Yanako one, for example, and this one has a really long bottom blade. So I can do, you know, 3/4 inch with absolutely no problem. The white side router bit has a long bottom one too, so it's good for 12-sided. Now, the top one, it's about a 3/4 inch on this bit. And that doesn't mean I can only do 3/4 inch with this. I can do 3/4 inch or smaller. I just cannot do over 3/4 inch for a six-sided because my blade, it's only about 3/4 inch. I hope you can see that. I don't know if it focuses, but there it is. Now, to set up my router bit, I will be using one of these block setups, and I'll put one into the description below if you do not have one. I'll be using this just to set my fence, not the height, because the height I might be working with different thickness material. So, but the way this one works, you see they have one side and then another side. This one that has this long nose, that is for your six-sided shape. So let me get out of the frame so you can see. So here's my bit for 6 and 12-sided. So if I put this, you see it fits perfectly on that angle. So that's how I will have to set up my router, the router table, to cut a six-sided shape. And then if I move this, keep it the same side, but here it doesn't fit. And it doesn't fit right, and that's because you have to flip this upside down to set your 12-sided shape. And you see the longer side over here lines up with the bottom blade, and that is for setting it up with the 12-sided. So if you want to set up this bit with one of these pieces, you use this side for the 12-sided, and then you use this side for the six-sided. I hope this makes sense. We will see when we go to the router table. So even though all these bits are so different looking, the same setup blocks works for all of them. So I showed you that for six-sided shape, you see it fits the angle perfectly. Well, if I take any of the other router bits, it will fit perfectly too, because it's the same angle. It's just the longer side, but I can use the same setup block to set either one of these router bits. Let's go to the router table and see how we set it up now. First things first, we need to remove this other bit that I have over here. Now my router table, the router is unplugged. I'm going to move the blade that is towards me, so I have a straight blade towards me. And then let's see. I will take my setup block. Let me move you a little bit closer, see if I can do this. All right, I hope you can see that. So now with my setup block, I will set it here, and my bit is too high. I'm going to move it lower, just until it fits there perfectly into my block. Maybe something like this. I will have to adjust the bit because I'm using different thickness of stock. But now the blade is exactly towards me. I'm just going to put this in there and bring the fence flush to it. Make sure my bit doesn't move. Just like that, lock in the fence. I am going to put my ear protections on and stuff, and we'll do a test cut, see what that gives us, and then we'll adjust as needed. All right, just by doing that very small amount of testing, I just barely cut into the wood, and I could tell you that the height was not right because it's chewing out of my top part. What I'm looking for on this edge to leave it really intact, and that blade has to come and end right here before it gets to my top edge. So I think I'm going to lower the bit. Now that I lowered the bit, we're getting a way better fit. But if you look here on the edge, it's not paper thin. It still has a few millimeter, maybe 2 millimeter of material. That means now my bit is too low, and I need to raise it up just a little bit until it gets to the very edge of my material. I don't want to remove any of the top material, so I'm just going to go about this much. Let's start it again. So now it might look like you got the right profile because we got very much to the end, but when I put this cutoff piece, we have plenty of extra material. So that means our fence is too far out. We have to bring it in so we can cut less of the material. So I'm going to move my fence closer. Now we have the paper thin edge, but now we have a little bit of leftover material. That means we have to bring the fence just a little bit closer. So let's try that. Oops, too much. Let's see where we were before. All right. And now we'll bring it just a little bit closer. Let's do another test. This time I'll be using it on this side. And now it fits perfectly. We get the perfect joint. So it's really a matter of trying until you get it right. Now that we have it right, this is what we're gonna do. Now that I know this block is set properly, I cut off the piece that we set up, and we know that this one fits perfectly. Now I cut off this piece and I wrote down on it 6, and I put an arrow. This side is for 6. So next time I want to use this router bit with this thickness of the material, whatever this is, probably about a 1/2 inch, I can just use this as a setup block, and I know it's going to be perfect. The height of the bit and the fence, everything will be perfect, and it will work with this thickness of material to do a 6-sided shape. So now this will be my new setup block, and I do this, guys, for every thickness of materials I use, which is usually 3/8, a 1/2 inch, and 3/4 inch, and then I keep them, and it makes it so easy to set up the next time. Now I hope this was helpful to you and you learned something new. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Skylar Ewing, and I'll see you in my next video.